degree? Are there different stages in spirituality?
Yes, of course. There are many, many levels in the spiritual path. Let's before we start the conversation, let's distinguish between two things, both in English called as spiritual stage. One is hal and one is maqam. Okay, so maqam is the stage which is permanent, which does not move away from you, which stays with you all the time. For example, belief is spiritual stage. Okay, tawakkul, trust. Obviously, tawakkul is not very correct to translate as a trust, but tawakkul is when you actually you just trust in the, you can say, the judgment of God.
Yeah, so you have that faith.
Faith, maybe, yes. Okay, so like this trust actually. So that is tawakkul. Okay, or sabr, patience. Okay, so all of them are called maqam because that is permanent with you. Okay, but some of them are hal. Hal is changing one. Okay, for example, sometimes you are happy. Okay, and sometimes you are, you can say, a bit sad. Okay, so stressed. So this is hal because it's never permanent. Your happiness will change into sadness. You understand? So that is called hal. So the changing one is called hal.
Is that not good?
No, that's good.
That's good.
So you have to go through the hal, the changing one, to make them changing ones into the permanent ones. Do you understand? So these changing ones should not affect on your journey to gain the permanent ones. Okay, for example, do you know, when we commit a sin, so the true believer will be sad, isn't it? And when you do some good, like a believer will be happy. Okay, so that is, as you can say, normal Muslim, ordinary Muslim. Okay, but with the people with very high spiritual level, they will never get affected by committing sin or by doing good. Why? Because their trust, their existence is by God, not by good deed or bad deed. Do you understand? So you cannot change God, can you? So you, because of doing good deed, are you going to make God good? No. And you, by committing sin, are you going to affect on God to make him to be bad? Never. God never changes. Do you understand? Okay? But it is necessary for you in the beginning of your path to go through that. So first you have to gain this thing which is hal. What is hal? When you do good deed, when you help someone, it gives you this you can say comfortable feeling in here. Okay? And when you insult someone, it gives you this darkness.
Is that your conscious?
Yeah, so that is hal. So, but you have to cross this. You have to get to the next stage in which you never change. Okay, so by committing sin, your hope in the mercy of God does not decrease. And by doing good deed, your hope in God does not increase. Do you understand? So you should get that certainty which never changes. But to gain that certainty, definitely you have to go through hal.
So hal is
changing one, changing status of the heart, changing spiritual stage. Okay, but this is not the target. But without this, you cannot do. Do you understand? So, for example, drinking water. So the main aim is drinking water. But glass is necessary. Glass is not meant to be there. I mean, you don't need the glass, but you need the water. But without glass, you cannot do. Do you understand? So that's how main aim is maqam. But without hal, you cannot get to maqam. Okay, so that permanent stage is not gainable without this temporary spiritual status. So that's why it's quite natural with everyone. But in here, you can just evaluate your, you can say, feelings and emotions. Most of the time, when people start the spiritual path, straight away they get to that permanent one. So from here, you understand that you are misguided. Because there is no anyone who will get the permanent one without going through the temporary one for ages sometimes.
It's all part of the process.
Exactly, yes. So if you, as soon as you start your spiritual path and you get to the permanent stage, you have to know that you went to incorrect direction. Because the direction to which you are going, first you have to go through these temporary spiritual stages. So if you went through that, and you have been there for about 2-3 years, for example, averagely. So then you for example, have gained this permanent stage. Now you can be confident that your direction was correct, because all of them temporary ones you left behind you.
Is part of it also knowing and learning through experience what doesn't work, what doesn't feel right?
Yes, exactly. But you experiencing by yourself, experimenting by yourself, that could be misguiding, because do you know there are many true ways, spiritual ways, but the incorrect ones are much more than that. If you're going to test each of them to find the correct one, you may waste all of your life and you will not get to the point where you will end up on the right one. Do you understand?
So you need guidance.
That's why you need someone who will guide you. Okay, because if you have 1 million true ways, you have 1 billion incorrect ways also. And even them 1 million true ways, on the ways there are these branches which will take you to the incorrect way. So let's say that 1 million true paths. Let's take only one of them. So even one of them will have these small streets, which is millions of them. All of them are to the misguidance. Do you understand? So even the true path will have many misguiding branches and misguiding small routes, side roads. Okay, so that's why you need just very highly qualified, very gloriously knowledgeable guide who will have amazing high-level knowledge of Quran and the Sunnah of Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Without that, you never can get to the point. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and maybe I can just give you some examples of the permanent spiritual stages. So one of them is rida. Rida by qadar. Rida by God. Rida is you are pleased. Whatever happens to you, you are never unhappy.
Yeah.
Do you understand?
Yeah.
This tranquility, rida, that is spiritual path. Okay? Time to time we may have it, isn't it? But we will have it as, you can say, consequence, as a consequence to some good event in the life, isn't it?
Okay.
But for example, now they are showing my face on TV, so it pleases me, you know? Do you understand? So that is misguiding spiritual stage. But the actual, real spiritual, you can say, tranquility is regardless to what happens. Even you have been told that you have life-threatening illness, but in your heart you are so peaceful. I say that what spiritual stage called rida is. You understand?
Yeah. Which
and
explains a lot. It explains why some people with life-terminating illnesses are actually more positive than the people around them.
Yes, and there is another thing called ribat. Okay, ribat from God. Ribat from God is, you can say, you are tied to God, means in the presence of God. Okay, so that is even much more above rida. Okay, so what is that? That is, the presence of God in your heart, which is undetachable. Okay, so that is another thing. And also another thing called, for example, shukr, gratefulness. Okay, regardless what happens to you, you are grateful to God. Do you understand?
Even when bad things happen,
exactly.
You know this has got to be a good thing.
Exactly. So that is spiritual stage. We have it, each single person has it, but that is fake one. And the proof of that being fake, when it is some bad condition, you are not thankful. But when it is sunshine, you buy a new car, you are thankful.
Yeah.
That is just nothing.
So it's about being grateful and see. Just because you can't, things are not obvious why it's a good thing. You're saying that it is a good thing. You just can't see it right now.
Yeah, exactly. So now
you
just
need to open up your mind to receiving the
100%.
positiveness.
So each single stage, spiritual stage, is sainthood in itself. So when you get to the one of them spiritual stages, you are saint. You're wali of God. But your stage, your wilaya is by shukr. Someone else's wilaya is through sabr, different spiritual stages.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,